Welcome to the Fox Den. I am sitting down this morning with Elyssa Schneider. Elyssa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I am so excited for today.
You are sitting there in Dallas, Texas. Is that right?
You got it. All the way here in big old Texas.
And you're not originally from Texas. You actually, from what I understand, you grew up in Spain?
That's correct. When I was 2 years old, my parents, without asking for my permission, moved me all the way to Barcelona. And we lived there for about 5 years. And then after that, we moved to the south of Spain when I was about 7 and lived there for another 6 years. Mm-hmm.
But you were born in Dallas, right?
I was actually born in Michigan. So I really, yeah. People ask me, so where are you from? And I say, I don't know. All over, I guess.
Right. You're very cosmopolitan. And you also spent quite a few years in Puerto Rico, I understand.
Almost just about 20 years. So people ask me, do you speak Spanish? And I say, yeah. And I was fortunate and I was lucky because they think, oh, that's amazing. And I said, but really, all I did was, as a child, you grew up listening to English, which is spoken at home, and then
Right.
you speak Spanish everywhere else. So you learn them both at the same time.
So, ¿hablas español perfectamente?
Sí, puedo hablar español y te lo hablo en todos los acentos diferentes.
Oh, wow. All the accents. That's incredible. All right. So let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do in life.
So I have a big mission in life. I spent 28 years in prison. It's what the world calls depression. I lived in the prison of depression for 28 years, and I spent years searching for answers, and I couldn't find them. And it got to a place where I knew it was going to claim my life. And so I had to find a way out. And I started to think about all the people that were going to find themselves in the same situation that I was. And so I went on a long journey for that. And I found the answers, which we can get into that. But that's my mission today, is to get this message out to the world. And here's my big claim. What I discovered, based on what I discovered, here's my question. Here's how I'd love to change the world of mental health. And ask this question: what if depression is not a state of mind, but it is a state of inflammation? And we can dive into that, but that's it. What if it's not a state of mind, but it's a state of inflammation? And I believe if we can get that out to the world, everything can change.
So you said you spent how many years? 27 years?
Yeah, 28 years.
Or 28 years in, was it a clinical depression that you had?
Yeah. I mean, I just woke up every day. It felt like, because people are like, well, what is depression anyway? The people that have it know immediately. The people that don't have it wonder, what is it? And at first it was a gradual process. I mean, it got worse over time. At first it was just a lack of motivation. Everything is hard. Everything takes so much effort. I don't feel like doing it. I was a kid and I would complain, Mom, I don't feel like this. And I sounded like any other kid, but over time it got worse. And so we're talking deep pain. It's like for regular people, if you lost someone that you care about and you feel that deep pain, that deep loss, depression can feel that way every day. But you haven't lost someone, but you still feel that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So at what age were you when this depression started?
I was 9 years old. And I remember
9 years old, and you had depression already at 9 years old?
I remember one day I could hear my mom, and she was in the living room playing the piano. And I run over to her and I say, Mommy, I'm crying. And I'm sad, but I don't know why. And that's depression. You know, you feel sad, but you can't always connect it to any particular reason. And that's where it started.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but now have you fully recovered from this?
Yes. I have my life back, and now I'm on this mission to help other people who are struggling, so that they can find the answers they need faster than I did, because there is a way out.
And is this something that this podcast is really geared for, business people, entrepreneurs? What do you think the connection is between the depression that you've had and the business world? I know it can get very tense, very stressful in the business world. What is there a connection there?
Definitely. So when we are in stressful situations, okay, let's think of our body tolerance. Let's call it's like a bucket, right? So your body and your mind and your life, you can handle a certain amount of stress. So if you have a very stressful job, but we'll have to get into this, but you can handle a certain amount of stress. But here's what happens once you start having underlying causes, which to just mention what they are. My root cause was heavy metal toxicity, so lead and mercury poisoning. When you start filling up your bucket with toxins, then all of a sudden your stress at work becomes overwhelming. See, as long as your body's not dealing with anything else, you can handle a lot. You can handle a lot of stress. You can handle lack of sleep. You can eat whatever you want. Maybe you didn't exercise, but you're still hanging in there and you're still handling it. But as soon as there's an additional factor and a burden on your body, you get to this place where now you go to work and it's overwhelming. Now the stress is getting to you. Man, now you're just starting to avoid these problems and these issues, and you're looking for those days off because you're becoming overwhelmed. And maybe it's not just the stress of work. Maybe there's something else in there.
What do you think the percentage is for people out there who are struggling with this?
I think I'll tell you what the numbers say. When you Google this online, it'll say that there's like 5 million that are diagnosed. But that's the key, is 5 million diagnosed. Anytime that I go and I speak to this topic, someone always comes up and says, I know someone who's depressed. So I think the number is a lot higher. And even though we are in this new phase where mental health is spoken about, mental health is now on the map, there is still a lot of stigma. And so there's a lot of people that could be struggling and they'll never tell you, because here's what the world is telling us right now. It's mindset, which means you need to be more positive. You need to work harder. You're not doing enough. Or sometimes even in the spiritual aspect, depression can be associated with you're not walking closely with God, or you're not in God's word. You're not praying enough. And so if I'm going to reach out for help and I'm going to get told it's your fault, I'm not going to reach out. So even though the number is 5 million, I think it could be way, way higher than that.
So I'm Jewish. I understand you're Christian. And when you were living in Spain, your parents, were they missionaries then?
Yeah, they were. Yep.
And how does that play into what happened with you? Like, talk a little bit about, did you have to search for your faith to overcome this problem?
So when the depression started to get worse and worse and worse, I dug deeper and deeper and deeper into my faith. And originally, I did think it was a faith issue. I thought I just had to get closer to God and draw nearer to Him. But I kept doing that, and the depression was still getting worse. And so what I did was I took God and I went on a journey. And the harder it got, the more I prayed. And I said, God, please help me to find the answer. And, Nathan, from everything that I've read in the Bible and everything I've read in God's word, I keep coming across the same principle, which is that when you're in God's purpose and in God's plan, even if you go through incredibly hard times, what you go through is not wasted. It's not on accident. There is a reason. There's something that God is going to do through that and bring you out on the other side. And I always held on to this verse. It says that for those who love God, all things work together for good. Mm. And I held on to that. Something good is going to come out of all this pain. There's something on the other side that's worth fighting for. And I thought about Joseph in the Old Testament and how God had to let him get all the way into that prison before he could put him in the palace. Why? Because he needed Joseph to be positioned in that place at that time to help millions of people. Now, I would love to help people. I don't know how many I can help. I'm going to help as many as I can. But Joseph, that story was such an inspiration to keep going.
Is that your favorite or the story that resonates the most with you from the Bible?
Yeah. Because I literally thought I felt like I was in a prison. It was this situation that I tried everything. I tried mindset, and I tried vitamins, and I tried medications, and I tried exercise, and I tried diets, and I tried any possible treatment I could get my hands on because I didn't want to be the one to give up. But I couldn't find the answer, and so it felt like a prison. No matter, I couldn't escape. I couldn't escape. And so I would think about Joseph, and he was a true inspiration that he did get out. And I kept saying, God, you got Joseph out. Get me out, please. And then
And eventually you did get out, right?
and I'm out. I'm out. I'm free. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't know, Nathan, if I could maybe share real quick what it is
for
that got
sure.
me out.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I was at my wit's end. I'm ready to just quit and give up on life. Um, but I knew I have to keep fighting for God and for whatever purpose He has in this. And I hear about this clinic in Dallas, and and I start describing my symptoms, and they're like, I remember the lady on the phone. She's like, "Honey, we treat people like you all the time." She's an
Oh
older
wow.
lady.
Yeah.
And I said, well, and do your patients get better? Oh, absolutely, she told me. And so I left everything. I left my house, my cats, my job. I was working with kids. I love these kids, and I left everything. I packed my carry-on, and I came to Dallas. And they started running all these tests. And after a few weeks, the doctor walks in and she says, "No wonder you're in so much pain. You have heavy metal toxicity." It's like, what? Heavy, what's that? Like, what is that? She said it's lead and mercury poisoning. And what happens is that lead and mercury are neurotoxic, which means that they get into your brain, and that's where they stay. They can stay there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years and more. And your body cannot get it out. It doesn't have the resources. So it gets in there and it starts to cause inflammation. And so I did the treatments. You do what's called chelation. It gets the metal out. It helps your body. And then that's it. I'm free.
Right. I understand that, there's a few stories about having these chemicals. I know we do unleaded gasoline these days because people used to, breathe in the lead. Have
Nathan,
you've heard of that one?
Nathan, do you know there's this fascinating video on YouTube. The guy that created leaded gas, he ended up getting sick and dying from the thing that he created.
Right.
And they knew that it was toxic, but guess what? It was cheaper. It was like a faster combustion rate, so it was going to be better, more energy for the cars. They knew that was super toxic. He ended up dying from it, but they still made it for years. So people who were back, living in that time when this was around, the leaded gas, they've had exposure. All these people. And
Right. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
And also, I was just thinking about the story Alice in Wonderland. The Mad Hatter. They used to put chemicals or some kind of lead on the brim of the hat, and that's why he just lost his mind. Have you heard that story?
Yes, yes, and that's based on true stories of how in real life, the people who were making these hats were working with mercury, and they would end up going crazy. And so people who have these toxic exposures, their mind, like literally your brain is under an incredible amount of stress because there is inflammation there all 24/7. Okay, for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So when you take that baseline inflammation, okay, so if this is your bucket, you're already, maybe you're already up to here. And so then you add the stress of work, it puts you over the top. You
Right.
add any other additional stress, and it's an overload.
And basically, this happened to you. You've overcome it, and now I guess you could say you've made it your mission, but is it also some kind of a business venture for you? I know you're doing speaking tours, you're going out there. I saw a video of you doing, what looks similar to a TED Talk. Has this become your livelihood, going out there and speaking about this?
This is my life work. This is my life work. I told God, I said, if you can please get me out of here, I'm going to do everything I can to help other people who are struggling. So this is my life work. I'm working on partnering with doctors and creating a protocol and a system that someone recognizes the symptoms and they're like, what can I do about it? We're going to have a program and a system, a step by step, so that you can get root cause testing and dig deep to figure out, can there be something else, an underlying issue that no one is talking about right now?
Yeah, that's a pretty big mission that you have there. I know a lot of people suffer from depression and mental health issues, so good for you for getting the word out. I often ask my guests towards the end here if you have any career advice for young people starting out. What advice would you give to young people who are, whether they're suffering from mental health issues or just in general, what kind of advice would you give to them?
I think it'd be twofold. If you're suffering with mental health issues, then contemplate the idea that there is a way out. Because what can happen, and you know what, this advice can go for people who aren't suffering either. There are a lot of situations and circumstances that we don't know what to do about it, so we cope and we cope and we cope. So if you're struggling with mental health, maybe you've tried a few things, maybe they haven't quite worked, and so you just keep on showing up to work, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're depressed, but you're coping because you don't know what else. And if you're not, if it's, and maybe it's not mental health, but maybe it's a difficult situation. Maybe it's a toxic situation that you're in with work, relationships, or maybe you need to go to a higher level with your skill set and your talents. I guess my advice would be, don't cope, but dig deep and find the next step. Keep trying, keep searching, keep going for it. And in order to do that, you have to get clear on what's in it, what are you going to get out of it? So if you're depressed and you're anxious, think about what your life will look like if you didn't have that. What will it feel like to be on the other side? What doors will open for you? How incredible and amazing will it be that makes it worth it to put in the effort? And if it's a work situation or a challenging relationship that needs to be adjusted, rather than coping, think about what will it look like on the other side, and picture yourself having crossed that over to the other side so that you can enjoy those amazing results and have that clear in your mind.
Well, it's definitely a worthwhile mission that you're undertaking. Where can people find you to follow your work, follow your speaking tours?
You can find me on pretty much all the platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you can find me on all of those, Elyssa Schneider.
Okay. Well, Elyssa, thank you for joining us today. Wish you the best of luck, and I'm so happy that you have overcome so many difficulties in your life.
Thank you so much, Nathan. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you.
Thank you. Take care.